50 overs of labour at Lord's for New Zealand. It takes them to a score that once again, we're not quite sure how it'll look. It'll probably depend on the second innings, but courtesy Henry Nicholls' first 50 of this tournament and much needed, much timed 50. But England's bowlers have made New Zealand work hard. Eventually they've got to 241 for 8 in the World Cup final. Will that be enough? History doesn't necessarily back these sort of scores. They'll be only second to Kapil Dev's India team of 1983 if they are to successfully defend this. 241, what sort of score is that after Chris Woakes, Liam Plunkett really plugged the gap in what seemed like an innings with its handbrake up? We'll discuss that with Dan Vittori and Ajit Agarkar, as well as Graham Swan, Murli Karthik, or with Mel Farrell at Lord's. This is our halftime show, the last halftime show of the World Cup on ESPNcricinfo Matchday UK 2019. It's more than what they got against India and New Zealand. They made good work of that. Dan Vittori at 241. What are your initial thoughts? I know, it'll take some time, which I think is exactly what this innings has done.
Circumspect. I think it's definitely not a score that rules New Zealand out of winning this final. I think they'll obviously have fond memories of the India game, but more importantly, they'll look to see how England bowled. And they started really well, as they always do with Archer and Woakes, but it was more Plunkett's spell and how he bowled. As soon as he started going to that cross seam all the time, it looked incredibly difficult. And I think New Zealand would be very aware of that and suggest to themselves, well, if we can bowl anywhere near how they did, slightly fuller when he was really attacking, then that gives us a chance. But it's a nervous total rather than a confident total.
Yeah, I like what you said, that it looked incredibly difficult. And as Liam Plunkett was going out into the dressing room, he got the touchline interview and said, "It's a good pitch," which is exactly what you're supposed to say, I think, after it's made to look so difficult. Now, Ajit Agarkar, as someone who's played at Lord's, who's seen this game, is it looking difficult or is it difficult?
It started looking quite a good pitch actually, but like Dan said, once he bowls certain lengths, I think we saw there was a lot of the wickets were of slightly fuller lengths. Whether that plays a part, and we'll find out more once New Zealand bowl. I think till both teams have batted and bowled on it, you don't want to pass any judgment, but it's certainly not a 240 odd pitch. There's more runs in it for sure. Certain lengths have made it a little bit difficult. I mean, you can see some of the mistimed shots, or even the ball which got Kane Williamson out after he looked in, tells you that there is something in it if you can get the ball on the right lengths.
I was really interested in Tom Latham's innings because he's more of a touch player, and I think his innings is a good gauge on how to play on it. And when he sort of underhit the ball, he looked in real control. It's any of the batsmen that start going hard at the ball, that's when it seems like they get themselves in a little bit of trouble. We saw it with Neesham when he tried to take him over long on. So if there's anything to go by, it's those players who, like a Root or someone like that, who are touch players, who play within themselves, could be successful on this pitch.
The sun's not come out either, or at least doesn't seem that. We'll probably find out once we go to Swanee, but
it wouldn't surprise me if it came out just as England come out to bat.
That might help if it does, just brighten things up.
Yeah, well, it's looking bright enough if you're an England supporter, of which Graham Swan, I think, has just given us an inkling that he might be. So let's go over just outside Lord's. Graham Swan is waiting with Murli Karthik and Mel Farrell. Mel, good to see you. Let's see what you've got from the boys outside Lord's. All yours.
Well, we'll talk about the opening bowling in a minute, but first I just want to bring up one of the great beauties of the world. You've got Caribbean sunsets, Scottish Highlands, the Grand Canyon, and Liam Plunkett's cross seamers in the middle overs. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, Dan was completely right. When he did bowl those cross seamers, just hitting a good length, it did seem very hard to get away. What I'm sorry to tell you, Dan, the sun's come out, it's baking here. I've had to take my jacket off. I don't know how Karthik stood there with his on. It's gorgeous. No cloud cover anymore. No, it was. I mean, I really can't understand, looking back, why New Zealand batted. I thought this morning, with the toss, with the conditions as they were, with their opening bowlers, who are two of the best in the world, what they do to India, I would have been absolutely licking my lips, get the ball in my hand, get England 2 or 3 down in 10 overs. As soon as they said we're batting first, I felt a relief, because I thought, well, that's one of their major weapons has now been diluted a bit. It still could do a bit when they go back out, and we won't know if 240 is a great score until the chase starts. But I think New Zealand missed a trick, and I think England have got the advantage at the halfway stage.
And almost in perfect sync to the last word of Graham Swan's sentence. Once again, we have the final that's evening up our extraordinary coverage of this World Cup. But let's keep hoping that we do hear from Mel, Swanee and Karthik in a bit. Let me pick up on Liam Plunkett.
Just to add to that before you go, I think they were 100 for 1 in 20 overs. So it didn't look like the worst decision to bat first. It's just that England bowled well through that middle period where they just kept picking wickets every time there was a partnership.
I mean, you look at the batting card and you'll have everyone sort of getting in. Everyone's faced about 30 balls. Now, what does that tell you when you look at that sort of batting card? That you're never quite in it? Or is it just batsmen being careless once they've set in? What do you assess?
It's probably, nervous is not the right word, but I think they really hung their hat on assessing conditions. So they didn't want to go too hard early on. They wanted to understand that pitch and they wanted to understand a past score because it worked so well for them against India. And probably in a final, you've got that in the back of their mind that you just want to get yourself in and understand it. And that's what they all did. And it all seemed like once they were ready to go, that's when they got themselves out. And so it looked like it became harder when the attacking shots were on display.
Liam Plunkett intrigues me because when England were trying to figure out what was their best 11, it was Liam Plunkett that were moving up and down, Mark Wood, Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid. And then they brought him back with the idea that Liam Plunkett gets us wickets in the middle. The way he does bowl, we look at some numbers too. What about Liam Plunkett makes important as a wicket taker in the middle overs?
I think just bowl straight, obviously mixes pace well, and that cross seam seems to be doing something for him. I don't think anyone else got that sort of movement. Maybe Mark Wood later on in the innings.
Break it down as a layperson. What does cross seam do? What does it exactly do?
There's inconsistency, obviously. If it hits the seam, it'll behave differently. If it hits the shiny portion, it'll behave differently. Or the one where it's scuffed up, that might behave differently. So batsmen can't gauge what pace it's coming at. And there was a little bit of movement, whether that was because of the slope that Lords has, or it was just genuinely hitting good lengths and ball doing something off the surface. We'll probably find out a bit more. But just kept plugging away. I think just the consistency in lines was pretty good once he came on. I think didn't start that well, but after that third over, looked a lot better when he changed ends.
And I think the thing that embellishes that cross seam is how tall he is. He's 6'5", 6'6", and he sort of jumps high and he sort of thumps it into the wicket. And I think that tends to produce something a little bit different as opposed to the skiddy bowler who bowls cross seam. So Ajit's exactly right. Sometimes it hits the shiny side, sometimes it hits the seam. And I think on a couple of those wickets, it hit the seam and almost sat up. And so the guys that were slightly hovering back in their crease just pushed at it and they were almost too soon on it, and that produced nicks or false shots like Henry Nicholls. So he just does a fantastic job through his middle stages.
So does that make you as a batsman stay in your crease? I'm looking at Guptill out to Chris Woakes, albeit Henry Nicholls to Plunkett, Williamson, Ross Taylor to Mark Wood. Everyone's sort of just not sure whether they want to go front or back.
I think it makes you unsure more than anything because you're worried about one skidding on and keeping low, so you just hover in that crease. And so the wicket has to play a part in that as well, and I think that's what New Zealand will be hoping, that the wicket played a part in how well Plunkett bowled, not taking anything away from him, but they've got similar sort of bowlers, and Ferguson trying to thump into the deck, Henry later on, even Neesham, who is a big tall guy as well. They hopefully will get similar sort of results out of the wicket.
Essentially what you're saying is that New Zealand will defend this then, if they've got four bowlers.
You haven't asked me if 240 is enough.
Of course. Bowl like Leo, this is well over par. This is more than Sri Lanka got against England at Headingley on another wicket that seemed a bit hard. But speaking of Liam Plunkett and how efficient and prolific he's been in the middle overs for England, we're looking at the most wickets between overs 11 and 40 for a pace bowler in ODI since the last World Cup. And here you have Liam Plunkett with 57 wickets. So he's right up there ahead of Hassan Ali. Well, surprise. Guess who's in number 3? Hardik Pandya.
Yeah, an incredible average actually because of the way the rules are. You know, 5 fielders in the ring. So it's a hard time to bowl, not like before where another fielder could go out. So I mean, I was of the opinion that Moeen Ali should be playing, but since Plunkett played that game against India in particular and on that pitch, of course the ball gripped the surface a little bit more. We know exactly why he's playing for England, and that record tells you, wickets in the middle of the innings are so crucial. It just felt like New Zealand started to get going, and England just kept picking a wicket.
And it feels like they're important wickets as well.
Yes.
It's either a top order that's set and going hard and he comes in and puts pressure on them, or he gets best batsmen out in the middle. And obviously Kohli's prime example of that, Williamson. So they're not only leading wicket takers, but they're leading wickets in terms of the quality of player that he tends to get out.
Yeah, you can give full credit to the bowler in that case. It's not like he's getting soft wickets or cheap wickets, but let's speak of the wickets themselves, and let's see which one you look back as a New Zealand supporter, which you might be one today, and see as to that perhaps dented the chance of a bigger score. Was it Guptill after looking all right and you thought maybe luck's going to go his way today, getting 19 of 18? Williamson, who after he gets a start, so rarely do we see him get out in that 30s sort of region, or was it Ross Taylor with a bad one? albeit.
There's only one answer to this question. It's Williamson, of course. Because of the way he put pressure on Rashid as well. So if he'd kept batting against Rashid, then they would have had to take him off. They would have alternated their plans. Stokes might have had to bowl more, and that may have really assisted New Zealand for the other batsmen, not just Williamson. So as soon as Williamson got out, it just fed into what Morgan wanted to do with his bowlers, and he had the luxury of bowling them more and more. Wokes didn't even bowl out his quota, and he's one of their premier bowlers.
I mean, he was 2 of 21 balls when he started his innings and ended 30 of 53 balls.
Yes.
So tells you he was one of the guys who could actually get going once he was set. So
there's a lesson to all top order batsmen to not gamble on their reviews. It can affect in the World Cup final. You've had one of your key batsmen and Ross Taylor get a rough one.
Well, it's a good gamble from Nicholls and a bad gamble for Guptill, because obviously Taylor was given not out. So, I mean, it's a hard one to practice. How do you practice for it? It's a nervous 15 seconds. No, it was smashing.
Was he almost because of Nicholls and saying, oh, maybe this pitch has more bounce than you think, that every LBW is worth having a crack at?
But you got to think through that as well. It seemed like it hit lower, and there's obviously a lot going on in that 15 seconds. But I think that Nicholls gave them confidence to go for another one.
That's the last thing you want to do in a World Cup final is talk about the umpiring. But it does look like the imprint has been left by not just Kumar Dharmasena but Marais Erasmus as well. We'll talk about this game and where it's heading on the other side. Time for a break on ESPNcricinfo Match.
R is for reverse sweep. The shot that tied purists in knots and caused bowlers to unravel. When the reverse sweep was first played in 1964 and tried out by others over the years, the purists scoffed at its aesthetics. But it wasn't until the final in '87 that the shot truly got a life of its own. Chasing Australia's 253, England captain Mike Gatting was set to bat his way to victory until he decided to pull out a shot he probably regretted for the rest of his life. Facing his Aussie counterpart, Gatting reverse swept and was caught. The legend of his botched reverse
down here to Trafalgar Square to check out the fan zone, of course, during this Cricket World Cup final. I'm shouting because there's some amazing music going on right now, courtesy of New Zealand. I'm going to have you tell me and explain to me exactly what's going on.
This is the natural New Zealand Maori dance, the haka, yeah.
It's pretty awesome there. So let's cricket now.
Yep.
Your boys winning the toss, choosing to bat first on this one. 242 now is the target that England has been set. How are you feeling about the performance?
Yeah, I think 242 is a good target. I think 250 would have been competitive, but 242 definitely gives our bowlers something to work towards.
Who impressed you today?
Henry Nicholls came out really well opening after a tough tournament so far. Yeah, I think he really led the team. Yep.
All right, well, let's go here from the England side now. 242, he says he's kind of satisfied with that target, but as an England man, you should be happy getting that.
Yeah, however, 240 is competitive. I think we got to keep the wickets in hand. With their bowlers, they're very good, and if we lose wickets, it could be very competitive, and I think we need to keep it tight. And overall, I am happy we kept under 250. But yeah, pretty content, but reason to be wary. Not overly confident. Not overly confident. Yeah.
Standard England fan, not overly confident, never overly confident, but pretty amazing vibe here. I know nothing is really going to be being there exactly at Lord's to witness this, but how have you been enjoying it so far here?
Yeah, it's been a great day here so far. I think we're massively outnumbered from New Zealand here. There's a huge number of England supporters, but I think the New Zealand guys are making their voices heard. And it's going to be a great New Zealand innings.
Well, it's a long way to come from New Zealand. And how have you been enjoying the vibe here? We know nothing beats being at Lord's right now, but it's pretty cool here still.
It's pretty cool. I think there's a bit of nerves in the air. You can feel the nerves. Not as loud as I want it. Not as loud as I want it. We can do a bit more better. But yeah, it's got a good atmosphere. Good atmosphere, and it's we're outnumbering them, which is the main thing.
That's exactly what he just said. The main thing is to outnumber the Kiwis. But as you know, our other analyst with us, Graham Swan, says that the English and everyone in the world pretty much loves New Zealand because they're just so darn nice. So we're going to bow out and go back to studio. I want you guys to wave your flags and give me a cheer.
Alexis Nunes, thank you very much. At Trafalgar Square, where there is the World Cup final fan zone. So if you can't get a ticket, if you haven't got a ticket, if you're watching us in those parts of the world, get to Trafalgar Square. Maybe Alexis will get you on the show as well. Right, that's what England need, 242. It's in World Cups that that sort of score has not proven to be enough more often than not. But as it was in the semi-final, a lot will depend on how New Zealand bowl with the new ball. And Trent Bolt, time to put your hand up yet again. The absence of Tim Southee, the senior man in this team, the man who has the experience of playing World Cup finals and semi-finals. And we're looking at England's top three against Trent Bolt. And he has 8 dismissals between Root Roy and Bairstow. Now, is Trent Bolt going to get any sort of shape that he's known for, that makes him more lethal, that banana swing that he can get at times?
I suppose you have to look at the English bowlers, and when they went really full, they tended to banana it a little bit. It was wide, but Bolt's probably more known for swing bowling than the likes of the English bowlers. So I think if he's confident enough to pitch it right up and attack those stumps, then I think he will swing it. But that back of the length tended to play pretty straight, but I think Bolt will have a go at it. I think he's going to try and take wickets in those first 10 overs and go for it.
There's the added pressure of knowing that now they have to, the opening bowlers almost have to fire, and what they've seen behind them should give them confidence.
Yeah, but they've done it once already in the semi-finals. So that they'll carry that confidence, and I'm sure they'll bowl better lengths than maybe England. Not that England bowled badly.
No, but there was some short stuff as well.
But there was a little bit. I think first ball was a wide ball from Vokes, which Guptill went after.
Yes.
After that, he almost pulled his length back immediately, which perhaps played a little bit into New Zealand batsman's hand at the start, but they corrected it as well. So I'm pretty certain that New Zealand will be better starting with the new ball.
Is there a chance it could get easier to bat though? What sort of wicket is this? Is it going to get slower like we've seen between England and India at Edgbaston?
I think to Ajit's point, New Zealand were 100 for 1.
Yeah.
So that tends to suggest that the ball coming on was a little easier, even though we saw Williamson battle 2 off 20 balls. And once those middle stages, the ball, that cross seam, I just think brought the wicket more and more into play. So from what we've seen, it seems easier with the new ball and then gets more difficult.
Yeah, let's just, if you're looking at patterns and you're seeing is 241 enough, in World Cup cricket the equations can change. In the final of a World Cup, 241 is proven to be insufficient on some days and plenty on just one other. And as we just talk about patterns in the finals of Cricket World Cups, what you will see is that a lot of finals have been won chasing in recent times. 241 is what Australia got in Lahore in 1996, but the Sri Lankan side that featured Kumar Dharmasena made light work of it. Otherwise, what you're looking at is significant chases with the teams batting second, including, of course, Australia against New Zealand in recent times. India did successfully defend 183 in Lords a long time back. That was a different era, though. And as we look at England in chases, remember what Graham Swan said at Headingley? They almost forgot what it was like to chase a 230 sort of chase. They put that behind them in the semi-final against Australia at Birmingham, where they made light work of 226 and batted well against the new ball versus Mitchell Starc. But we do see England, while chasing, have fallen short of Sri Lanka's 233. Final words before we leave our viewers in the Caribbean. Which way is this going? Is there a gut feeling? Is there anything, or is it just nervous at the moment?
I think we have to look at recent history of the semi-final and have immense confidence in New Zealand's bowling attack.
They'll have to have their best, another all-round bowling performance together.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how the conditions play as well. Yeah. We've seen there is something in it. If you get the ball in the right place, they'll need to prize out one out of the 2 openers at least very quickly. If they can do that, pressure does funny things.
And Satner could play more of a part than Rashid. He played such a huge part in that semi-final. Let's see what he can do on this ground.
I'm just trying to think, is this a good pitch for a final? Do you like this pitch?
Yeah, much prefer this than 350, trying to chase 350 down.
You'd go with that?
Yeah, it's an exciting game. I think all the 250 games have been a real pleasure to watch.
Ajit speaks as a man who almost sees the opposition score 340 sometime before in a World Cup final. Which didn't go right. More from Dan Vittori and Ajit Agarkar. Let's hope Dan has some history to talk about at the end of this game. Viewers in the Caribbean, time for live action. And viewers on ESPNcricinfo, stay with us. We've got a bit more coming up. It's the World Cup that's coming to an end, and in our last leg of exploring Great Britain, let's catch up with Veronica Jose, the winner of the ESPNcricinfo Visit Britain Biggest Fan Challenge, and ESPN's Isha Acton, as they go up the world's tallest tunnel slide and down the memory lane of UK's national dish.
for the culture, and in particular what I want to see is the connection between the UK and India. So I'm here today at the ArcelorMittal Orbit, and we're going to see Britain's largest public art piece.
So Isha, why are we here? What's the India connection?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Firstly, the whole thing was co-designed by sculptor Sir Anish Kapoor. Secondly, the whole project was actually funded by steel tycoon Mr. Lakshmi Mittal. So, are you ready to ride on the world's tallest tunnel slide?
Yes, I'm all excited.
Let's do it.
Well done, man. You okay?
Did you hear me?
Yes, we did.
Did not expect that. Did not expect that. What? Oh my god! Was scared of me. We're at the London Transport Museum in Covent Garden. So what do you guys say? Let's start with the tube.
1 second, Isha. Mind the gap, please.
It's the perfect time for Veronica to try Britain's national dish. Have you any idea what that could be, Veronica?
Fish and chips?
No, chicken tikka masala.
Are you serious?
I'm just as surprised as you are. Let's head down now to Baluchi restaurant and tuck in. I travel for the culture, and today I've really enjoyed exploring the connections between British and Indian culture. I hope you guys are enjoying this series, so make sure you stay up to date with all the action. So until next time, it's a bye from me.
Many thanks to Isha Acton, who's of course done such a lovely job getting us the best of Britain through the course of this World Cup. Let's also have a look at the Hotstar top comment one last time in this Cricket World Cup 2019 as England's batsmen make their way to the centre and what is going to be perhaps the start of some history for them or for New Zealand. And Arun from Kolkata, if England win today after batting second, they would have proven themselves as not only world champions but also the best team in the tournament. Lords has been a bat first pitch throughout, and England have looked good enough to overcome bad tosses to lose. Now, is this Lord's surface different from the four we've seen previously? Is that a...
I think can do our job for us on that that assessment. No, I think it'll be pretty similar. I think it feels like it's played. It looks the same. That grass covering is irrelevant, I think, to our Lord's wicket. The thing that we haven't seen from the last game was a little bit of spin. Rashid didn't really get it to turn at all. So whether Satner can or not, I think that's the thing that possibly separates it from the last ones. But it looks a relatively familiar Lord's track.
All right, Dan, Ajit, let's talk in a bit where we can speak of New Zealand's first World Cup win, hopefully in some time, but we're not done just yet. We'll go back to Lords for viewers on ESPNcricinfo as Murli Karthik and Graham Swan sign off as well with their thoughts on the first innings, and we will see you, of course, after that at the end of the Cricket World Cup, and we'll see who would be crowned champions for the first time. For now, it's back to Mel Farrell outside Lords.
Well, you might have heard Graham Swan saying earlier that the clouds had all gone. So that's pipe dreams on his behalf. Let's go to the neutral here, Karthik. The conditions, still cloudy. What do you think of the pitch so far? How hard is this chase going to be?
Yeah, still cloudy, absolutely right. And I think that pitch was not those kinds where you plant your front foot and keep driving the ball. I don't think we saw any of that. Even the ones where they took a few chances, they didn't go anywhere. So the first 6 balls from Trent Bolt will possibly let us know how it's going to play, because people like Jason Roy and Johnny Bairstow are or can be susceptible to the one coming in. If he can get the ball to come in like that, and if they stick to their lines, because 241, it's not a great target, but it's not an easy target either. It can be one of those tricky ones where if they're rocked like the way India was, none for 3 down for 5 or something like that, then the onus is always on the others to come and try and play a different sort of an innings to what they're used to. Now they're used to Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy coming and blasting the opposition, and all you do is just come and capitalize on it. Whereas if Trent Boult and Matt Henry, if they can get a few jaffers going, get a few wickets, it'll be interesting. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't give the cup like last time. I knew 99% against Australia that it is going to England. You still have to give some credit to the New Zealand bowlers because they are a very good unit.
Yeah, that first power play is going to be so important, Swanee. But look, Jason Roy and Johnny Bairstow, we've talked about this before, they have a habit of making pitches look flat that didn't look flat in the morning, don't they?
Well, one of the reasons I think New Zealand should have bowled first, Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy, much like in the Australia game now, do not have to go hard from the ball one. They can have a look. First 4 or 5 overs, chasing 240, it gives them the luxury of after 10 overs being 35-40 for none, which is what they actually prefer. Everyone thinks they just go from ball one. They don't. A lot of the time, after 10 overs, they'll be on 40-42. After 15 overs, on 90, because they then put their foot down. Chasing 240 gives them the ideal opportunity to do that. So basically, it's test match bowling. Trent Boult and Matt Henry have to bowl test match line and length, hoping to get the nibble just enough to beat the inside or outside edge and pick up 2 or 3 wickets. Because if they don't, 240 definitely is not enough. If they do get 2 or 3 down, as Kartik says, and then England have to play a different type of chase, one they had to play against Sri Lanka, where they spectacularly blew it because they do not like chasing sensibly. They want to go out, like against Australia, bash off 240 in 32 overs, get on the champagne. It's not going to be that easy if New Zealand take early wickets.
Now look, it's all well and good to talk about this like a normal game, but this is a World Cup final, so I'm going to put this to both of you. What about the pressure of chasing in a World Cup final? Does that add a different element?
Absolutely, and if somebody says that, look, we are treating this as any other game, yes, it's good for the outside world, but heart of hearts and subconsciously, you know it's one of the biggest occasions you have been part of. Any cricketer can be part of, and that too at the home of cricket against followed by people who have backed you to win. So from that point of view, it is going to be a nervy start, and that's why I feel the first 2 or 3 overs and possibly the first over from Trent Boult for me will dictate how it's going to go about.
How about you, Swanee? It's a World Cup final.
Absolutely.
Is it going to come home, or is that, is it going to be harder for nerves?
That's what I say. Early wickets make it hard. It's the middle order who feel the pressure of the chase. The openers don't. They go out and face a new ball regardless. There's no pressure on them. It's the middle order. If England lose early wickets, a lot of pressure goes on them. If they don't, England's game 10 times out of 10.
One word. Who's bringing it home?
I think England.
Silly question.